Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Brian coming to you from TST Industries Garage with another quick and easy install. Today we're going to be doing the install of our Fender Eliminator and some signals and a license plate light on our customer's 2018 CB650F behind me. Gorgeous bike. We just need to do something about that rear fender section that Honda left on there. So that's why we went ahead and created this Fender Eliminator that we have here in front of us. There's going to be a couple parts that I touch on throughout the videos. They're all available on our website. I'll touch on them one more time at the end, but it's very straightforward, so let's just jump right into this one. All right, so before we actually jump into the removal of the OEM fender, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of pre-assembly on the table of our Fender Eliminator, make things a little bit less cumbersome when putting them on. So the only thing that you do need from your bike is your license plate. As far as hardware goes right now, if you do have signal converters, we'll leave those off to the side. We're going to take all the Fender Eliminator hardware, slide that off to the side as well. We're going to need our pod signal mounting kit, PSK-MNT. We're going to dump that out and start to work with this hardware, our plate, and our signals. So we want to grab one of the M6 bolts, 2 washers, do the same to the other. 2 large flange washers. We're going to take our plate, our license plate light. Typically, if this was a permanent installation, you do have a piece of 3M tape here. You could peel that off, make sure you're getting it nice and centered, and then stick that to the back of your plate. This is going to be a semi-permanent installation, so we're not going to utilize that. It does get pinned in place by the bolts that we're about to apply anyways. We're going to take our wire, run it up through this slot. Then we're going to have our license plate, one of the M6 fasteners with the 2 washers. Flip that over. I'm going to go ahead and take our bracket slot side mounts to that hardware. One more washer, an M6 cap. Tighten that down. Repeat on the other side. Leave yourselves some adjustability in here. You want these as far out as possible. It's now at this time that we're going to figure out which is left and which is right on our BL6 signals. The names on the back, the logo rather, is actually correctly oriented if the signal's in the correct orientation. So we're going to figure out which one. So we have a left here. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this nut that's on the stem. You might need to grab your 14mm open-ended wrench at this point. I'm going to back that all the way off, pass one bullet connector through at a time, take that nut off. There's a small lock washer. We'll want to grab that guy too. There's one more washer on this stem, but we're actually going to leave that there. So we can now take our left side signal, just make sure the orientation's right again. Take our signal leads, go through our pod signal mount, start to lift that up, set that back down. And at this point, we're going to go in the reverse order. So we're going to go lock washer. And then again, one at a time, pass the bullet connectors through the nut. Bring that down your wire lead. And then right here, we can start to actually tighten this signal up just a tiny bit. We're going to wait to crank anything down entirely because we're going to figure everything out once it's on the bike. But we just want stuff generally reassembled. So go ahead and repeat that process with the other signal. All right, so it's at this time that we're actually going to collect our wires, bring them all kind of to a center point here. And we're actually going to go ahead and take the small zip tie included with our Fender Eliminator, and through these 2 small slots in our fender, if you can see that on either side, we're going to grab our wires and just kind of make that bundle a little bit tighter, make sure that they're not hanging out and around. So we're going to go ahead and cinch that down, cut that excess off, and then once we have the chance, we're actually going to move over to the bike and start to work on that removal of that fender. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, guys, so using our key, we're gonna take the seat off, pull back a little bit and up. Should come right off. Grabbing a very small Phillips head, we're actually going to take this electrical block connector here. We're gonna look at the side of our plugs that you can see. We have all these little locking features on top. We're gonna wanna do this far orange one. We're gonna wanna do this closest white one. You can do it with your fingernail or sometimes the tool helps. And then that blue one. This white one is our taillight. You could go ahead and unplug it just for kind of ease. I'm gonna do that as well because there is a little zip tie right here that does connect all those together. So we're gonna wanna try to get that bundle out, release that zip tie. Should release just by hand with that little lever. Keep that off on the side, you're gonna want that later. And it is at this time that we can actually move these things back over to the side, grab an M4. We're gonna go for this fastener here first. Back that fastener all the way out. Set that off to the side. Now we have two more fasteners right here. Once you start to break these loose, you're gonna wanna support your fender a little bit as it will wanna sag on you. Pull that one out. Now definitely supporting it as we take this last fastener out, it will wanna sag, so just keep your hand up underneath it. Try to support it as best you can. That fastener should come out fairly easily if everything is aligned. All right, set that one off to the side. At this time, we're gonna let this drop down a little bit, and we're gonna start to take and push our signal leads back down in a little bit. They have a little bit of a tricky routing there, so you don't wanna put too much strain on them. All right, so we're gonna come down to the bottom side, pull our leads out, make sure that we're navigating correctly up top, not getting snagged on anything. Try to rest the fender in an area that you can hold on to it so you're not straining your wires. The plugs can kind of be difficult to get out sometimes, but it should be pretty easy. We're gonna go ahead and set this off to the side. All right, so with the fender out of the way and our wires mainly taken out here, we do have two more fasteners to pull. So we're gonna grab these two guys, set those off to the side. We won't be reusing them. All right, and with that last screw out, we can go ahead and throw our TST Fender Eliminator in. All right, guys, so with my Fender Eliminator here, as you can see, I took my wires after I zip tied them. I routed them up through the bracket itself. We are now going to actually route this up into the bike. If you are attentive to detail, you'll see here, this is an OEM connector that I have on our license plate light. That's something that I wired specially just for this bike. If you guys do want, that's something you could do. Splice off your OEM connector for your license plate light, which is the white 2-position plug, splice that back onto the license plate light. If not, we do include tap splice connectors. Those will work as well. So what we're gonna do here is we're actually going to set that down for just a second. We're gonna grab an M5 countersunk, the Cove washer that accepts that. We're gonna take one of those, put them down on the bottom. Take a small washer, a black washer, one more small, and then repeat on the other side. So holding that there with one finger. All right, so we want to have our two M5 flange nuts in hand, and we're gonna hold these bolts and actually start to route our wires up through. License plate light can go on either side. And make sure that you catch it. And then the way that they routed it, Honda, the right signal does actually go through the right hole. The left signal does actually go through the right hole, or through the left rather. So we're gonna throw our bullet connectors up in. We'll catch those on the other side later. It doesn't really matter where they go for right now as long as they're routing through cleanly. Pull some of our slack here. Get a hold of it. And then slowly, as we're pulling our slack at the same time, we're going to want to navigate these screws up into the location that they will eventually mount. All right, so with our fasteners poking through, we could go ahead and take our M5 flange nuts, kind of start to hand thread them on. They do have a nylock component on them, so you're not going to get too much further than hand thread without a tool. Can be a little tricky here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab our 8mm wrench, 3mm Allen, just tighten this up just a little bit. We still have 2 more fasteners in the back, but we want to clean up a little bit of this slop. Switch to that other one. All right, so not bottomed out just yet. So with our remaining hardware, we'll take these bolts, throw a washer on each, and then we're actually going to come up through the remaining holes in the fender eliminator, coming up through that mounting position. You'll notice you guys have 2 leftover nuts. They're nylocks. We're going to throw those on the back end of those fasteners that we just brought up through. Then grab a 10mm socket, and holding down on the bottom of that, we're going to tighten the top. All right. We can go ahead and switch back to our 8. Now that these guys are in and tightened down, we can totally bottom out and tighten down those first 2 that we had installed. All right, so it's at this time that we're going to want to wire our signals up. So we're going to go ahead and grab our CB650F harness converter. All right, so with our harness converters in hand, it's actually incredibly straightforward. We're going to take one at a time. Just plug in our yellow wire to the yellow bullet connector, black to black. Repeat that process on the other one. And now here is the frustrating portion, because we will actually have to plug these in to figure out which one is left and right. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and plug in what I'm thinking is going to be my left signal, test it out. I got lucky, that was actually my left signal. So at this point, I can go ahead and tape all my wires down. I want to double check that the right one's working, make sure we have a good connection actually. Cool. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and wrap some tape around these connectors, make sure that these little shields don't move off the bullet connectors, otherwise you will short out that wire there. So let's get those taped off. All right, so I taped my signal up, I rerouted it, going the correct direction. All your wires want to come down this direction towards your main connector block. My very last step before throwing this OEM zip tie around my wires here to clean them up, I just want to do another check, make sure I do have a left, a right, and a functioning license plate light. I have all 3 of the above, so I'm good to go here. Just gonna grab these wires, throw this OEM zip tie back around them. A little cumbersome to get in there, but should do all right. So we're going to want to push those wires down into the channel that they route into. Take our electrical connector block. It has this small tab here that it does locate on. Push that back down onto that. Tighten our zip tie up. Throw our seat on. The last step is going to be regarding our actual fender eliminator. So let's jump over to it. So now we have to come back out to the outside of the bike. Obviously we have some very wonky signals here. So we are going to want to actually grab our M4, our 10mm open wrench. We want to tighten this down. We want to center our plate a little bit. So we're going to loosen just a tiny bit. Remember, we left all this hardware pretty loose so that we would have this option at the end. So I like where my plate is. It's pretty centered. The brackets seem to be in a good place too. You want to try and make sure that they're horizontal at this point, because when you do tighten down this fastener, that is what's tightening down the actual angle of your signal. So holding it on the back, go ahead and give that a nice little crank. Same thing on the other side. Step back, make sure we're still horizontal. Good enough for me. We're going to now at this point, take a 14mm open-ended, loosen our signal up a little bit, get more parallel with the ground, and go ahead and tighten that stem nut once again. You don't have to go too tight here, guys. This is a rubber grommet, so it's gonna take care of most of the vibration. You don't wanna crank down and break that stem off. So do the same thing on the other signal, kind of get it to the position that you like it. Holding it there, we're gonna tighten down. All right, so check one last time, make sure that they're level. I think they're about level to me. Guys, this installation was very straightforward. This Fender Eliminator definitely cleans up the rear end of this bike. I think that these BL6 signals, basically on any bike, look fantastic, but especially this one. Very sleek look here, kind of tucked under this tail section. Still very visible though, very bright with those 6 high-powered LEDs that we have in there. If you did notice, I don't have a hyper flash after installing these LED style turn signals. That is because we've gone ahead and actually installed a relay on this bike. It's a pretty complex installation, but you guys are covered. We're gonna have a video for you. So if you did wanna pick up some BL6 signals or this Fender Eliminator and any style LED signals, you are probably going to wanna look into that relay. Guys, you can check that video out on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe to us now, because we're gonna be rolling out more products for this bike and other bikes that you guys love. I'll catch you guys next time. This has been Brian at TST.